I do want to ask my questions to Mr. Brown. And I think it's appropriate that we're having this discussion today because it is National Tourism Week, and this is very much a tourism-related issue and one of the flagship tourist destinations in Canada. So you described in your opening how we have these areas of Whistler that are zoned specifically for tourist rentals, for short-term rentals. And the unit base was built up by seeking foreign direct investment. But they're actually restricted from becoming long-term rentals because of the covenants that were put forward by the municipality. So I was hoping you might be able to expand on this and mention what is the volume of properties that will be impacted by this underused housing tax, which will be an annual tax on the value of the property.
So 6,600 tourist accommodation rental units located on the resort lands, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, or approximately 9,300 bedrooms. About 12% of these properties, somewhere between 10 and 15%, are owned by U.S. and international property owners, so about 790 to 1,110 bedrooms. For every sale that results one unit leaving the tourist rental pool to become a BC second home, Whistler could stand to lose on average 305 unique visitors to Whistler, 788 visitor days, $90,870 in accommodation revenue, $2,726 in MRTD revenue, $7,270 in PST, $4,544 in GST, and approximately $280,000 in annual resort spending. A loss of 12% of Whistler's tourist accommodation rental inventory, noting the share of Whistler U.S. international accommodation ownership is somewhere between 10 and 15%, could result in a shortfall of more than $100 million in annual visitor spending if Phase 1 properties are sold to BC second homeowners who take this accommodation out of the rental pool. There would be additional visitor spending losses in the millions of dollars for Phase 2 property owners who are required to use their accommodation for 28 days a year versus the current usage of 7 to 14 days.
So I was hoping you might be able to explain to the committee that why, if an international owner sells their accommodation to a Canadian owner, why wouldn't Whistler see the same benefits or results?
Yeah, so what, I guess if, no, if an international property owner sells to Canadian, the following could occur. First, the resale of these properties will not go to local community residents. As a resort lands, properties are not suitable for residential living, so the resales will likely go to British Columbia second homeowners who would use their properties more often due to their close proximity to Whistler, but this would further decrease the volume of accommodation inventory available to rent for tourists. Further, BC second homers typically visit on weekends and holidays, adding to the busy weekend congestion, whereas international second homeowners and nightly vacation renters typically support longer length stays, filling the needed midweek periods. However, there's no guarantee that Canadian demand will fill these anticipated resale gap that could occur if the UHT tax proceeds to include tourist-zoned accommodation. Noting that most international owners are not prepared to pay the tax, so likely will sell at a time when real estate sales are currently soft. The BC market is also saturated. We have heard some sales going to lower mainland second homeowners, but in other cases, these properties are sitting on the market but not willing to sell. Instituting the UHT on resort land properties would therefore not add to local housing tourist stock, not support increased residential usage, but rather take away from the needed tourist accommodation inventory, resort-wide tourism business revenues, while harming Whistler's real estate industry.
Thank you. I think the mayor has a very colorful word for the type of tourism, the brown paper bag tourism for Whistler, which is not necessarily the same type of high value tourism that that makes the Whistler the economic driver that it is. And you know, we do have some experience now. I mean, the tax will need to be paid, I guess, in less than 2 weeks now. Is the experience that the property owners are paying the tax, or are they selling their properties so far?
No, unfortunately, we have both first and second-hand knowledge of international accommodation owners selling their properties with the institution of the UHT. In fact, they're extremely disheartened as they were solicited to invest in Whistler, and they recognize that Whistler's success is in part due to their investments. So we believe that Canada is now, or so they believe that Canada is now turning their back on them. Of note, they don't make a large financial return on property ownership in Whistler. It's very slim, 4 to 6%. Noting that Whistler is a mature resort destination, hotel and condominium units require ongoing maintenance and regular capital upgrades and reinvestment, all of which is directly paid for by the individual property owners, a foundational pillar to Whistler's success.
Thank you. And are there other destinations that may be similarly impacted by the underused housing tax, similar to Whistler?
Yeah, so there's two municipalities, Whistler and Sun Peaks, are both zoned as resort municipalities in Canada that have designated tourist zones. However, other destinations which would also be impacted would be larger resort destinations that rely on international investment, such as Big White, Mount Tremblant, and possibly Niagara in the Lake. And I can think of a number of other resorts that have ski areas that would be under the same sort of situation.
Thank you.
And now we're going to hear from MP Sainte-Marie, please. Oh, Trudel. Oh, sorry. I